so
Ladies
much.
And gentlemen, friends and fans of Valorant, welcome to Spike Down, episode number 7. After a short break from the Mid-Season Cup, it's now time to gear up for the stage 2 of the Knights VALORANT Challengers season. And of course, I'm Van Silly. Along with me is the one and only Roy. And Roy, how have you been, man? What have you been up to during this off time that we had? I think we had like 2 weeks off rather so far.
Lots and lots of Valorant, man. We had the Challengers, we had the playoffs, we had the Mid-Season Cup, we have VCT going on. It's completely ruining. I know it's ruining your sleep schedule.
Yeah.
My sleep schedule is kind of chill. I'm trying to keep it tame. Yeah, he's jet lagged in it while he's in NA. That's actually an achievement.
Yeah, that's actually quite funny. I've actually been watching your content as well. I was watching you give some feedback and coaching on how to play Lotus like a pro. So I watched the video. I've been learning, and already I'm doing great. I'm already 0-4 this season. But yeah, so let's get into it, man. Let's exactly. I could play just like Roy now, which is just continuously lose. Perfect, amazing.
Exactly.
But without further ado, let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of things, because we're just talking about the mid-season cup that just happened and prior to the stage 2 that's about to happen and start this week. But I wanted to digest that a little bit more and get our reactions a little bit about that mid-season cup and results on potentially like is this what we expected for some of these teams, right? And I think the writing's on the wall or the elephant in a room that I'd like to address with you, Roy. The first one is M80, you know.
We're just starting like that. Okay.
Yeah, dude. I'm like right off the gates, dude. We're going hot.
Okay.
So I will have to. I'll have to admit, and I think it's no surprise though, it's been an underwhelming result for M80 going into the playoffs. I know it's only single elimination, but when on paper and going into the event, when you were the team to beat last year and unfortunately lost their guard in the Ascension, and then looking at the roster you put in together for this year, you should still be there, like uncontested, like that #1 spot, you know. But unfortunately, like I just mentioned, it's been underwhelming. They underperformed. They had a very close game that potentially even could have been a loss for them already when they played against TSM, because, you know, let's face it, that game against TSM, the first one on Breeze, they kind of threw that round 24. We're trying to shorty the last person inside that hit. And then suddenly we got into overtime where maybe TSM potentially even won that. And if TSM won that one, they would have won that series 2-0. Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So what happened to M80 so far in the mid-season cup?
I mean, it's honestly kind of hard to say. I think, like, for me instinctively, like the one thing that I can definitely talk about is like with confidence at least, is the fact that the 2 players that they really relied on last year were Nismo and Koala, and they both seem to be in some sort of slump. I feel like Koala's clawed his way out of the slump a little bit. But I mean, Nismo and Koala Noob have been underperforming, and these are players that they really depended on, right? Like they're some of the most flexible players on the team, and they're just not putting up the same numbers that they were last year. And now just things seem just a little bit out of funk, right? And I mean, just think about it, right? Like if Koala and Nismo are performing even 20% better than they are, almost all their matches are just clean victories, realistically. Yeah, like all their matches have been close, right? Like it's very rarely do they get swept. Like, yeah, it was 13-8 on Ascent versus Turtle Troops, but like almost all their games have been close, and it seems like they're missing just a bit of an edge. And it comes down to, like, obviously I can't put it completely on the 2 players, but I mean, stylistically, it does feel like they're just a bit too predictable now. It feels like, at least like they're playing too structured, it feels like.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that actually, in terms of, you know, the play style or the style that M80 brings this year, and you're mentioning that it's too predictable. Is it because of the loss of John Cutie now, who's been IGLing Sentinels to a Masters, where, you know, maybe not the best results for Sentinels at stage 1 during the VCTs, but losing John Cutie, technically, if you're looking on paper, though, you have still Captain America with Nitro that came from, you know, CS to Valorant to CS back to Valorant, and with all of that experience as an IGL or an Opera or Fragger, whatever role that he played back in CS and now in Valorant, is it still like is there still a gap in terms of trying to lead, you know, players like Nismo and Koala Noob that's different than John Cutie? Yeah, that could be fixed for stage 2 here.
Yeah, I mean, dude, think about it. Like their head coach is happy, CS veteran, right? Yeah. Their other IGL, CS veteran. They're both playing CS in a Zoomer Valorant game. So I imagine there's probably some sort of like too much thinking fundamentally and less pew 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 going on, right? Like before, not only did they lose John QT, but they also lost EU. It's, I mean, EU is always down to scrap. Like, he's a very scrappy player. Like, yeah, he plays his role extremely well, but he's always down to scrap in the server. And I think it just, when I'm watching them, they don't feel like they have that edge where it's like, you know, there's some unexpected things, like players could take over rounds. Like, it doesn't really look like that. It just looks a lot of like just team fights going on, just like pretty standard kind of vanilla Valorant going on. So maybe they just need a little bit more zoomer energy on the team or something.
Yeah, I think overall, though, if I'm looking at this roster from M80 on paper, I think it still has to be a roster that looks good, right?
It's like, great. Yeah, it's a great roster. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's probably like one of those storylines where you're looking at, for example, Energy. You're trying to build a super team that on paper is supposed to win trophies. And this time for M80, it's supposed to win Ascension, right? You brought in BCJ, somebody that, you know, the owner of M80 knows quite well from the days back in XSET and knows what BCJ could bring to the table. Even BCJ deadlifted one of those maps on Breeze previously, which helped M80 get. Exactly. And if it wasn't for him on that first map, maybe even M80 would have lost in that round of 12 or whatever it's called, right? Just before they got to the quarterfinals. So that was, you know, like some great plays coming out of BCJ that really allowed M80 to look good and just scrap. You mentioned scrappiness, right? So BCJ definitely has what it takes if you want to compare it to EU. And I also just think also that, you know, despite me saying that it's been very underwhelming for M80, there's still great leadership around, as you said here, Happy and Nitro. But I feel that maybe they do need a little bit more time to find that link that would actually make them that strong super team like where we expect them to be. But man, that clock is ticking right now, and stage 2 is coming up, and they're not going to be coming up with they're not going to be starting with an easy match, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But at least for now, like I gotta say, it was, I think everybody agrees, and I think the team would agree itself for M80 that, you know, it's probably not the result that they wanted going into the mid-season cup.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but then moving forward, let's talk about, you know, one team that I think surpassed the expectations, right? So we're going to extremities here in different polarities, and I think the other one, or the team that I want to talk about here, is Turtle Troop. So is now Turtle Troop their Turtle Truth, right? Like they came in
Truth Troopers.
That's what I'm saying. They had silence that came in, had to fit in the shoes of We Did was sipping pina coladas or something like that and watching the games on his cell phone while he's on vacation. And he's seeing this team of Turtle Troop unsigned make it all the way to the grand finals against OXG, Oxygen Esports. So, you know, you mentioned it in your broadcast and when you're on the desk, you have to stop doubting Turtle Troop, but what convinced you about this team when you finally you finally saw them play here during the mid-season cup?
Listen, the Truth Troopers had the first conquest. It was to prove that they were good, and honestly, they defeated me. I was a denier for a while. I kept voting against them. All my predictions were against Turtle Troops, and I'm not making that same mistake this stage. And maybe when I start voting for them, they're actually gonna fall off. Who knows? But yeah, like they're not fluking their matches. Like genuinely, they are not fluking their wins. They're playing extreme good Valorant. They have very well thought out setups. And the one thing that for me is like kind of like a standout thing is they are totally down to throw the structure off. Like players will get in positions that if you're studying the Valorant, you're like, oh, this position doesn't really make sense. Like why is this guy in this position in a 5v4, right? Like it's too aggressive. But then they, you know, Adder gets 3 from that position. It's like they're totally down to kind of flip the script a little bit and not really play the most logical Valorant. And I think it's that sort of chaos that they create with this like quote unquote illogical level of Valorant is what gives them the edge, because they can back it up with mechanics.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well, because if you're looking at Turtle Troop, or you're just thinking about the history of Turtle Troop at the same time too, it's always been a team that has to go through so many roster shuffles with teams going and getting, or players getting going to different teams, getting picked up, getting scouted, or We Did go on a vacation, and they have to just kind of like wing it. But it almost looks like because of that, you're just going to naturally think that this team is going to have to pug it out. But technically, it doesn't really look like it's a puggy style, but more of like a loose style that really allows for them individually to excel. I think even Seller mentioned that as well. And you were mentioning like sometimes they find themselves in these awkward positions that pull out in their favor. And I think that's the result of them versus M80. I still remember the Ascent game where somehow Stellar has a Guardian, and usually as a Silva on CT or on defender side, you're trying to recon dart and trying to hold and try to get wall bangs when the executions are coming. Instead, he's going back back into mid and gets a backstep on 2 players and kills them with the Guardian. And I'm like, how is this happening? Like, how are M80 able to find these type of, or sorry, how are Turtle Troop able to find these type of timings against M80? But I guess the question comes down to, now that you figure it out and you notice here that the playstyle is too loose, will it actually stand on its 2 feet for a longer time than you expect here going into stage 2?
Dude, I've been asking that same question for a whole stage. I honestly don't know the answer. Like, it's loose is a weird term,
right?
Right, exactly. Like, loose is a weird term because they look loose, but they also are playing within a system that allows individual expression, right? So is that really loose at that point, or is there just like they understand their boundaries of where they can express themselves and where they have to kind of fall in line with the rest of the team? And I think it's that level of kind of like just no pressure gameplay. Also, shout out to Stellar, by the way. That dude is probably providing the least stressful environment possible for his team. They honestly just look like they're happy to be there, dude. Maybe it's the happy to be here buff. Who knows? But no, they're playing great, and I imagine they're going to keep that train rolling forward, especially now that they have weeded back for stage 2.
Yeah, and especially when you hear Stellar in these post-match interviews. Sorry, he already has a very calm demeanor that also doesn't seem like he's going to like tilt or anything like that too. So it almost feels like it almost feels like his loose style is like, they play loose because Stellar knows the potential and what a player could bring individually, and then where he could actually pull them back, and also where he could say, hey, just let loose and go, and we know what to do and how we could capitalize if we're in an early 4 versus 5 to bring it back into our favor. So I think, I agree with you. Lots of laurels to go on to Stellar, because he's done amazing calling so far with Turtle Troop. He's done some amazing calling in the past as well with 100 Thieves, and has done some amazing calling in the past with LG. You know, there were always a team that were like, as LG, the boring team to watch, but a team that were always consistent in like that top 4 going into the Challengers of last year in the VCTs. So yeah, that's probably the biggest asset for me looking at Turtle Troops, to see now Stellar still be able to call like a king and make the team look so good. But speaking of teams, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. TLDR, I think the word is trust. Like, they just have trust in each other, realistically. Like, they all kind of understand their role. But correct me if I'm wrong, but Turtle Troops are the only team in the league that doesn't actually have a coach, which is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, and I think Stellar mentioned that too in the post-match interview. Is like, I think they're afraid at some point that, you know, bringing the a coach in or adding more structure to that team will maybe make things a little bit more difficult to start. But I'm sure that they're the type of team, because they're also a free agent team that's been looking to get signed for the longest time. I'm sure that if it has to come down to that moment that they need a coach, or an org wants a coach to coach for this team, they'll accept that as well. Because if I want to do like a apples to apples comparison, I could maybe think of, for example, the Sentinels of like 2021 with like the Shaz 10s, like that Zoms roster of the past, where, you know, they never had a coach come in, and then finally, like, they were a little bit too stubborn for the longest time and finally realized that they were in that slump, and then they brought in, like, for example, Rockets to help out or something like that, you know? So I think that Stellar and a group at Turtle Troops would also be able to identify that earlier and accept that they need some help, and they will go and get it when they need it. But for now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it.
So I'm down with it. I mean, they got first in their group. They got to the grand finals of the MSC. They're looking great in the standings, which we're going to see in a bit. So yeah, just keep going and keep trucking so far. I think they're now really like the dark horse of potentially even making it to the Ascension. That's
are they the dark horse? They're the number 1 standing team. Dark horse just feels like an insult to their achievements at this point. They're just the light horse.
They were a dark horse starting, but yes, definitely coming into the light, I guess, at that point. But yes, definitely a team to beat at this point. Maybe we have a new dark horse going to stage 2 that we're gonna have to talk about in a bit. But yeah, at least let's move on here to the next team I'd like to talk about, because I think when you're looking at, you know, the Challengers scene and in general, we always thought that it was top 3 heavy, right? It was going to be the MXS, the OXG, and the M80s of the world. We just talked about Turtle Troop now, because now it has to be the strong 4, right? Looking at the start of stage 2. But then now I want to talk about OXG. They actually look amazing. I think for me personally, if I was looking at all of these top 4 dogs, the top 4 dogs going into stage 2 or stage 1 even on paper, I thought OXG for me would be like the 2nd or 3rd and M80 at the top. But at this point now, Oxygen Esports, they just won the grand finals here of the mid-season cup. Mitch is looking awesome on so many different roles. Dapper is having great moments, but I think overall there's a lot of consistency coming out of the young fraggers of Verno, Scuba, and Redux.
Dude,
that really, it makes Oxygen Esports a whole, and I understand now why this team wants to stick together and be like the next guard pretty much, and now slash G2, because they feel that they could win it as a group. So I think you'll agree with me, Roy, that we could just gas them up by saying like this team is looking like a top contender right now, maybe even be able to beat some teams during on the VCT stage.
Yeah, I mean, just judging purely off the mid-season cup results, I would say that Oxygen looks like the best team in the tournament. Even if you remove their win from the grand finals, I would still say that they look like one of the best teams in the league right now, to be honest. But yeah, their season 1 was a little, or stage 1 rather, it was a little choppy, I would say. Their highs were really high, but their lows were also a little too low. But I mean, now at this point, I think they're firing on all cylinders. Like you mentioned, Redux, Verno, and Scuba, obviously they're doing extremely well. But also Father Mitch is coming in, and now he's putting up performances in the IGL role. And then they have Dapper, a previous international winner, who's closing out rounds for them. And it's just like, it's clicking. I see the vision, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, will it be at some point though that MXS versus Oxygen Esports as the El Clasico, that Moisex Shopify could actually beat Oxygen Esports? Because at this point it almost feels like, you know, Oxygen is MXS's kryptonite, because every single important match, I'm going to put it like that, during the offseason when everybody's practicing and getting ready for stage 1, it's always been on the side of Oxygen. Yes, MXS won one map during or one series during the week, but when it came down to, again, what's quote unquote important here, getting to circuit points, qualifying for the Challengers playoffs, it was still Oxygen Esports beating Moisex Shopify in a single elimination BO3. So what seems to be, I mean, there was a lot of trash talking about that, by the way, from Redux at the end of the day too.
So he's trash talking his own teammates.
Yeah,
he wasn't even trash talking the enemy. He was trash talking his own teammates. And I was like,
dude,
what
that is so funny. That is so. He's a funny guy, dude. Love that
so
guy.
funny.
At this point, I guess there's almost like an El Clasico slash a feud that I like to start and stir the pot here between Oxygen Esports and MXS, at least in the server, not outside the server, of course. But MXS, what do they need to do now to find like that stronghold in that spot that they're really that team to look out for, going to make it to the Ascension playoffs?
All right, so before I answer that question, I do want to provide the chat with the Van Silly translation. Basically what he's saying, chat, is the fact that he's saying Moisex Shopify is the Cloud9 of challengers, and they only seem to do well in group stages and not in playoffs where it matters the most. That's his words, not mine. I'm just simply translating.
I think you're paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But you know what? Kind of true.
I mean, you're kind of right, though. Basing it purely on their head-to-heads from their history, it seems like every time it's gone to like a very important match, a grand final or like some sort of semifinals match, it has been Oxygen Esports who comes out on top. I can't really pinpoint why. Like, when I'm watching Moisex Shopify, I see their ideas. They're very clearly good ideas. Like they master defense. In my opinion, they're playing one of the best defenses in the league. They're at least on paper, right? Like they're masking all their setups. They're playing very anti-meta kind of style where it's like, it's really hard to unravel what they're doing quickly without overcommitting and like getting a lot of information. Yeah, they do really good. They're very versatile. They have a lot of traps. They have a lot of individual expression. They're all shooters. Like every single person on that team, they have a hardworking IGL who's also like 19, 18 years old. Like, give Fly some respect, but like they have everything that they need. So I'm not entirely sure why they're not really winning the important matches, to be honest. Maybe there's too much pressure, but I mean, dude, we also kind of have to talk about the fact that all of Moist Shopify's results have been super close, like 2-1s, 13-11s on the last map against Oxygen Esports.
Slow starts on series 2 during the weeks of the regular stage. So yeah, they're
not map winners, that's for sure.
Exactly. So it's they definitely have to fight for their victories and make sure that their name is out there. But I think it's very similar to a lot of these teams, right? Because again, to go back to our top of show, like M80 is in the same boat for me when it comes down to that. So I guess it brings down to this part then. After being able to digest the stage 1 and the mid-season cup, and we're focusing here on now the top 4 being M80, MXS, Oxygen Esports, and Turtle Troops. Where do you currently rank them in terms of the 1 to 4 into our top 4 teams?
Wow. Okay, that's a good question. My instinct says Oxygen is number 1, but we didn't get to see Turtle Troops with full strength. Like Silence did a great job. Shout out to that boy. Okay?
Yeah,
he did amazing. But he's not weeded, and they've been practicing with weeded for a long time. So I feel like it could be. And they almost won. That's madness. But yeah, so in my mind, it's Oxygen, but Turtle Troops at full strength is kind of in between these two teams right now. It's either Turtle Troops or Oxygen, but as you know, complete recency bias, I have to give it to Oxygen. They looked impeccable throughout the entire event. So I'm going to give number 1 to Oxygen. I'm actually going to give number 2 to Turtle Troop, and then it's Moist for 3rd and M80 for 4th. Oof. That's my rankings.
Yeah. And was M80 your number 1 going into stage 1? Like before the season even started?
Before anything happened, yes, they were my number 1.
Yeah.
It seemed like a no-brainer. Like everything on paper looks so good.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part too, because now I do agree with you with this ranking. I pretty much had it the same, actually exactly the same as yours. So then it comes down to once we get to finishing stage 2 and finishing the playoffs, will we still see Oxygen Esports and Turtle Troop in a grand finals to see who goes there to the Ascension playoffs with the other regions to play for ascending to the VCTs. That'll be an interesting watch, and that's a great opportunity to start things off, because that's going to happen in stage 2, right? We have stage 2 coming up, and then it's going into the Challengers playoffs, and then the Challengers playoffs top 2 will be going to the Ascension playoffs. So let's talk about it a bit and explain the format of stage 2 going into this, because so far, let's pull it up if you can. We'll look at the standings that we currently have after all of stage 1 and mid-season cup has been completed. If you're looking at it so far, and I'm going to pull it myself as well, we currently have Turtle Troop at number 1 with 13, followed by Moist X Shopify's tied with Oxygen Esports at 12, M80 at 10, and Core Gaming Sad Esports at 8 and 6 respectively. And then we got like the bottom 6 that are still quite close, and they could still make this very doable, because how it's going to work in stage 2 is depending where you place in your group, you're going to now get more points than you did in stage 1. So if you're first in your group in stage 2, you're allotted 13 points instead of, I think it was 10 in the past, right? So it'll count down to 13 for first, 10 for second, 8 for third, 5 for 4th, 3 and 1. So you actually have an opportunity now to gain more points and even topple the other teams. And another thing that's important to note is that in stage 1, you're playing teams that were in the opposite group, right? So if you're in group A, you're playing group B. But now, very similar to the VCTs going into stage 2, you're actually playing against Exactly. You're actually playing against opponents of your own group, which then means looking at week number 1, we actually have a big matchup to kick things off, right? We have an M80 game versus Oxygen Esports. And I think that probably is going to be the big match to watch this week. Like, has M80 fixed things quickly in the last, 2 weeks of break that they've had? And can they turn it around? And can we have more hopium about M80 again? But if we're looking now at the schedule of this week, right? We got 6 matches coming up. Are there any games that catches your eye so far here, Roy?
I mean, I think the first one that you talked about is definitely a good one. Oxygen versus M80, you can't go wrong. It is going to be a very important match. I would like to see the resurgence of kind of like the lower end teams. Like, yeah, it's easy to kind of pick and choose the top 6, right? But like, is anyone going to surprise us? Like, YFP has made a lot of changes. You know, are they going to perform well? You know, like Winthrop University's made changes as well going into the split. How are they doing in this stage? Like, there's gonna be a lot. Again, like you said before, right? Like the point system is a lot more heavy now compared to stage 1 and mid-season cup. So anyone could swoop that playoff spot and make it into the into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So it could, anything could really happen. But again, I think from my POV, the first week of matches is always like the feeler matches. Like, what are people doing? Are there any comp swaps? Have they kind of changed their map pool, right? Like I did talk previously about M80's map pool. I don't like that they permaban Sunset and they play Breeze, considering that they have so much experience on the team. I would like to see them play Sunset and actually drop Breeze and not play that map. But we'll kind of see. So that, for me, like it's also TSM versus Blinn. I feel like we didn't really get to see, one, we didn't get the chance to see Blinn in their full strength. Two, TSM has a lot to prove this stage, and I think they're out for blood here.
Well, let's talk about it a bit, actually. So Blinn Esports comes in from play-ins. You said they were playing with the full roster, trying to figure things out. But then, the results were pretty okay. They went through the play-in relegation. They won that one. They qualified through back with Dobros. Hey, I was able to say that correctly this time, right? But,
hey, congratulations. Man.
Thank you, man. Blinn, how do you think they'll fare now, looking that now they have to play against like this group that they're currently in, and they have to play against TSM. We had the conversation just earlier on of like, dark horses. For me, that was Turtle Troop going into stage 1, but now a team to beat. Who would be your new dark horse going into stage 2? Could it be a team like Blinn?
Yes, I think it definitely can be. Okay, let me start this with a history lesson. Okay, don't call me old. Fans, I know you're smiling right now.
I don't think I could ever call you old because, I'm older than you, and I'm already ancient.
All right. So chat, don't call me old. All right.
Call them old.
Blinn Esports got knocked out of the midseason cup by Turtle Troop in a 3-map series that went into overtime on the 3rd map. Like, if the Turtle Troops went all the way, they went all the way to the finals. The person that knocked him out was one of the grand finalists. And this was their first event in Challengers. You kind of have to give a little bit of respect to them. 13-8 loss on the first map on Ascent to Turtle Troops. Second map was a 13-9 clean victory on Split. And then Bind went into overtime. Come on, for their first match. And like, that's kind of nuts, no? You kind of have to give them a little bit of respect here. A little dark horse energy, in my opinion.
Now that you've freshened my memory about this, yes, I do agree now that I'm a little sold actually on Blinn being one of the dark horses. Because on my end, I thought it was going to be the opposite. For me, I thought it was going to be TSM that was going to be the dark horse of stage 2. Because again, we've mentioned it, they almost won that what could have been a 2-0 for TSM if they didn't gas out on a 3rd map against M80 on Lotus, right? I don't think they won a single defensive round on Lotus, unfortunately, in the 3rd map. But they were so close to closing the first map in overtime on Breeze, and they looked really good on that 2nd map. So for me, it looked like, they've been putting a lot of practice into it. I know that they've been I think they were boot camping even at some point, or if not, at least getting to a functional schedule that allows for them to look really, really good during the mid-season cup, where I thought that now they could be the dark horse. But all right, Roy. So let's just cut straight to the chase and go right into predictions. We've already hyped up the first game of this week, which is going to be Oxygen Esports versus M80, but we didn't have a chance to predict it yet. So I'm going to let you take the floor first and let me know who you're picking for this match.
At this point, we have hyped up Oxygen way too much to not vote for them. So I'm going with Oxygen. Otherwise, we just look dumb at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so let's go with that. So Oxygen over M80. Then we have Fluffy Aimers versus Winthrop University. I'm going to have to go and start with Fluffy Aimers. They look good. They literally brought some great aimers through. They brought it to the distance against a team like MXS in the midseason cup. They've already beaten Winthrop University in the midseason cup. And yeah, the extra firepower that they brought, I think, are great additions for them to go pretty far here in stage 2.
Yep, I completely agree. And I think now they've had more time to develop as well. So I think the roster is looking quite nice. I'm also going to go with Fluffy Aimers. We're going to keep it vanilla for this one, Vance.
All right. YFP versus SAT Esports. If I'm not mistaken, SAT Esports, don't know if it's official yet, but I mean, well,
a little leak?
I
redo that.
You know?
Redo that.
So YFP versus SAT Esports. Now, if I'm not mistaken, SAT Esports, maybe it's a leak or not. I can't confirm nor deny, but I think
just leak it, man. Screw it.
All right. So I've heard that SAT Esports have gone through some roster changes, and it actually looks pretty good. They brought in a new IGL, being Dip. I'm assuming he's going to be IGLing for this team, and he's an ex-teammate of Darkest. And if I remember those days of Northwood University with those two playing together, I think that is going to be a stellar lineup. And I think they might be able to overtake YFP in their opening match as a new roster.
Ooh, okay. I was actually leading the complete opposite way here. I'm thinking although yes, they do have experience together. Yes, they have played together.
I don't agree.
Yeah, it's finally. I never thought it would happen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to VALORANT Challengers North America for Stage 2 of our competition. Stage 1 was an absolute roller coaster. The Mid-Season Cup delivered, and I cannot wait to keep going on as our team's trying to be collecting those points, looking ahead at Ascension. My name is Sierra Dawn. I'll be your host for this week, and kicking it off on the desk and our wonderful casters for the day. They can do it all. I have Lemon Kiwi and I have Van Silly. I see you brought the tie back, Jen. I love it. You seem ready for today.
It's fake. It's fake. But so is Van's hair. Didn't you wear a hat?
What do you mean my hair is fake?
I feel like you look like you can remove it. Oh, it's real. All right.
What is happening to kick things off?
The myth has been busted, Sierra.
There you go. I may be old, but my hair's still good. I mean, I'm not orange. I'm not as orange. I'm pretty happy.
Wow, so much discovery to kick things off. This is absolute wonderful, Van. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations on the hair. How are you doing otherwise?
I'm doing great, man. Stage 2 is finally here. And yeah, I'm very, very stoked for these games. I think we had a small break in between from the MSC to now, but at least we had the Masters Shanghai happening at the same time. So that, there was a little bit of something to fill during the gaps. And then now we're getting ready for the action here for Challengers.
So much Valorant happening right now. I don't know how anyone's being able to get any sleep or anything else going on with their lives.
You don't sleep.
But perfect. Yeah, Vance has that figured out for sure. But we got to talk about this competition that we have going ahead of ourselves here. In Stage 2, looking ahead at the points that the teams have for them, because there is definitely some points up for grab in Stage 1. And in Stage 2, even with winning the Mid-Season Cup, things are really competitive, Lemon, when we're looking at these top few spots here for our circuit points.
There's a lot of green, and I'm not talking about our graphics. Yeah, we had an exciting Mid-Season Cup and a Voice, Oxygen, Turtle Troop, M80. These were the teams that have been at the top throughout Stage 1, and they're staying at the top, and they just finished duking it out, and this just makes it for an exciting Stage 2.
And also, if you're looking at the standings so far, everything's super important. Everything carries over from Stage 1, from the Mid-Season Cup, into Stage 2, and then the top 8 actually goes into the Challengers playoffs. So what's important here to focus on as well is that you're also able to win more points depending where you place in your groups for this Stage 2, which is why every game really matters, especially for those that, are just coming in, like Blinn, for example, right? They came in from the relegation play-ins. They qualified through from the Premier system, and now you're trying to gain those points. You might not be able to make it to the top, but at least if you're able to squeak through in a top 8, then you're in a good spot at least. So that's what you're aiming for, at least as the second collegiate team, by the way, going into Stage 2 of Challengers.
It's exciting because in the Mid-Season Cup, their debut there, I was actually really, really impressed. So being able to see them going on forward with the whole stage ahead of us, yeah, maybe you're not going to quite catch up to the top place spot in Turtle Troop here or something, but as you said, that top 8, that is what we have to look for. We have a lot of Valorant up ahead this week. Of course, it's just the first day of our competition, and we'll have an opportunity to watch all of our teams compete at some point. And we're kicking it off with a really, really fun match for today. Oxygen going up against M80 for our very, very first match. And it'll be Fluffy Aimers and Winthrop going on later. But, I mean, as I said, your favorites, everyone gets a chance to compete at some point this week.
I'm so excited for this first match. The Knights set us up good for our first match of Stage 2. M80 versus Oxygen. Like, these guys have been at the top. Of course, big congratulations to Oxygen. Just coming off that mid-season cup win. And we get to see if they can kind of maintain that winningness against M80, who are a strong team in their own right.
Yeah, overall, it is definitely a great match to kick things off in Stage 2. Just like in Stage 1, we had like an amazing match to kick things off as well. But there is a little bit of, uncertainties, doubts, or maybe things that we can look at when we're looking at the first matchup between these two teams. I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about it in a second here. But yeah, this is going to be a very tough one, at least in my eyes, for M80 to kick things off, because they have not been starting on the strongest foot. And hopefully now, after that 2-week break, they're able to find like that solution to be that top contender, that top team that on paper should be the one that easily goes into the Ascension playoffs for a lot of people.
Yeah, let's look at the lineups going into today's match. Of course, a lot of the teams are kicking it with the same team going into Stage 2, and these ones will be no exception here. But a chance, Lemon, to really stack up these teams against each other, because when we're kicking off Stage 1, looking at these teams, of course, there is different claims to fame for why these teams could be considered the top team here in Challengers. And coming off the mid-season cup win, I mean, you'd kind of have to give that trophy to Oxygen Esports for now, but this should still be a really, really competitive matchup to watch.
Yes, this is going to be a dogfight, because we got top dogs on both of these rosters, a lot of young talent, and even Oxygen, so exciting to watch as a team, starting off with them, because they kind of give us different looks at compositions, whether it's Scuba showing us the Clove on Lotus, to some Reyna from Redux on Icebox. Oxygen kind of like to throw things at people.
They definitely do, and it's been why they've been able to... Not quite surprised, that's not the right word here. We know that they're a powerful team going into this, but surpass, I think, a couple of expectations too in being able to showcase just how strong they are here in Challengers. Pulling up this bracket from the mid-season challenge, I mean, this was immaculate. When we're talking about the top teams, being able to feed out another contender for that title in MXS, and of course, that 2-0 over Turtle Troops in the finals, Vans. I mean, if you thought Oxygen was strong before, I think this just solidified that.
That's definitely the first thing. Oxygen definitely wanting to prove that they're the best team right now in Challengers. They've done so. They had a relatively easy run throughout the whole bracket. A nice little matchup against MXS. But when you had this underdog of Turtle Troop making it to the grand finals, you thought it was going to be a close series of like a 3-mapper. But Oxygen really just swam through the grand finals at that point. But at least it brings up a bigger conversation here. If you're looking at everything that's happening so far, look at MXS versus Fluffy Aimers, for example. That finished as a 2-1. TSM, that finished as a 2-1 for M80, where potentially it could have been a 2-0 for TSM if you've listened to the pregame show that Roy and I did. So overall, when we always had this conversation of like the top 3 dogs going into Stage 1 or just going into Challengers in general, I feel like that gap now, after witnessing the matches here in the mid-season cup, that gap between the top 3 and the rest is actually closer than we expected. Because even if you're looking at Stage 1, there were a lot of really close games too.
I just got to say that I think the Oxygen side of the bracket was actually really stacked. Core was on the rise at the end of the season. They faced Moist Shopify, which was kind of the favorites to win the whole tournament, if I'm completely honest. And you had Blinn, who came out of relegation. So like that bottom side of the bracket, TSM were on a lower note near the end of the season. So I think Oxygen absolutely deserved the win. And to go up against Turtle Troop, who were such a wild card, I gotta say, Oxygen really impressed me. And I guess I wasn't even expecting them to win the whole thing. I think a lot of eyes were on Moist Shopify to do that.
What's really nice about this Oxygen roster is they have that experience working together as this core group. Dapper being brought into the team for this year has just been working out so well, and each week, each game, being able to see them come together a little bit more. I mean, you got that young fragging duelists here, Vans. You have the experience in the other core group of the teams. I mean, they have the recipe for success.
Exactly. And even when Redux is not, doing all those entries that you need, there's still a strong support system around Oxygen Esports that just makes the team complete in general. You're looking at Scuba, you're looking at Verno. Mitch is doing some great IGLing. You saw some games too from Dapper going in through the playoffs that he made some great impact games. And this, I actually found it very funny. Like 72 steps in like, what, a month? So Scuba's just been sitting on the chair, just grinding it out and like showing, like I said, they're coming out with a vengeance. They want to prove that they are not that number 3 in a top 3. They just want to be considered number 1, and there's nobody that's going to come close to Oxygen Esports at this point. And they've definitely proven that looking at the results and the gameplay that they've shown during the mid-season cup.
And I just love this tweet because, like, how is Scuba's back? Well, it's been heard, because I swear sometimes he puts the team on his back. I became a Scuba #1 fan when he brought out the Clove on Lotus, which completely annihilated the competition, kind of becoming almost a secondary duelist at that point. And I'm so excited. I hope that he got more steps in, got to touch some grass between mid-season cup and now, just getting oxygen in the system.
I don't think so, because this is yesterday. It's like his stats apparently shows until yesterday, so I don't think he's been moving at all.
Well, hopefully he can get some steps in, because we want a Scuba that's around for a while. You need to get those steps in, gamers. All right, but
he still looks healthy though. Look at him.
That's true. That's true. Stats looking healthy as well out here. I mean, Scuba is someone that we've talked about a lot going on in this, Levin. And wanted to talk a little bit about him and comparing him to someone who's always been able to step up over on the M80 end of Xander as well.
Yes, Scuba spends most of his time on Omen, but I feel like Xander has a similar role of, like, watching the flank. I feel like Xander is such a good anchor player the similar way as Scuba is. Yes, Scuba, like, frags like crazy, but so does Xander. And these are the stats throughout the entire Stage 1 plus the mid-season cup. And, like, they're very similar. I think Xander has a bit of an edge, but Scuba, I feel like, has had higher highs, if that makes sense. Like, really high peak moments that he can really drop, like, that 30 bomb and turn a whole match around. So Scuba can be that guy.
Yeah, and also to add maybe potentially why the stats are a little bit different and leaning more towards Xander as well is because as I just mentioned before, for Oxygen Esports, they have such a complete roster where everybody can kind of like fire out and show up any day. While for M80, like I said, they had much of a slower start. If you're looking at how they've been, digesting every single match they've gone through every single week. I mean, look at this. Already when they lost to O2 versus Turtle Troop, Xander tweeted out, one day it's Xander, one day it's Nismos, one day it's somebody else. So there is definitely a lack of, I'd like to say, synergy as a team to figure out, like, how can the team be as complete and everybody could show up to bring that synergy that Oxygen has been bringing week after week. And M80 should be able to do this because on paper they have such a complete roster, right? So that is a big question mark. We're looking at playstyle of both of these teams. It's fairly similar in a sense, but also like for Oxygen, it's like, okay, well, we want to show that we're number 1. And then for M80, it's like, we're supposed to be number 1, but we're not showing up. So this is kind of like making us doubt our skills and our potential.
That's definitely the mystery when you're looking at M80 and what we've gotten to see out of them, because expectations were high on this team, exactly like you said, for a lot of good reasons. But looking back at a couple of the matches they had in Stage 1 and looking at the mid-season cup that they had and the loss that they took here in the semis, it's definitely something when you're looking on paper, Lemon, it doesn't quite make the sense that I would want to. What's happening here?
And you look at that Xander tweet and you're like, man, they're just so depressed. Like, what is up? Like, they are such an incredible team. Did you guys see their map differential? It was like plus 38. They were 2-0ing kids left and right until they beat TTR. They're allergic to turtles. They want them to go extinct. TTR has been the only problematic team for M80 thus far. That's why you thought, okay, the second time they would have faced them, that would have been it, right? They would have downloaded them. No. And I don't even blame M80's loss because they faced some weird Turtle Troop comps. Like, whether it was the deadlock on Ascent, the double Sentinel, they just couldn't crack that egg. And then when they went to Breeze, it was 13-10. I think that was a very respectable loss, but I know players like Xander, they want to be number 1, and number 2 is almost more insulting.
I mean, not even just number 2 at this point, but we're looking at how strong the teams are getting here in Challengers, and that the contention for that top spot here, Vans. I mean, M80, they're still in contention for the conversation. They have all of the talents and everything there. It's just when you know the peaks of these players and how this team can be, even the ones that are getting, it's like I'm still looking for more.
Yeah, the advantage, at least for M80, is that, yes, despite them tanking out of the mid-season cup, they still have a great cushion in terms of the circuit points that they have, and you only have to make top 8, really, right? At this point, maybe being at the top and finish at the top is your goal because you are the super team going into the challengers. But if it's not, at least you still have 5 weeks to, you know, get your lines, your chickens in order. Is that how you say it?
And then chickens in the line,
right? And then just get your wins in, and then find that synergy that you need.
Well, let's see if they can get their chickens, ducks, whatever.
Ducks in a row. Ducks in a row. Chickens in a line. Ducks in a row. Quack, 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 quack.
All right, let's quack over to the map select. All right, and you got me there. But going ahead of this series, I'm excited for this map pool out the gate. Not just Clotus with Oxygen means Clove. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I think Sunset for these two teams, it can be quite a good map for them, Kiwi.
It's honestly the bans that I was just like on the edge of my seat for, because really this series could be decided on what maps we go to, obviously, but based on like the favorites that both these teams have. The maps I was looking out for: Bind, Icebox, Sunset, and Breeze, or Bind, Oxygen's top #1 pick, M80's #1 ban. And Bind, you see M80 banned it out. Icebox, that's M80's favorite map. They go to Icebox so many freaking times, and they're undefeated on that map, and thank God Oxygen banned that out. Sunset, it's, well, an Oxygen top pick, to be honest, and M80 have commonly banned this out, so Oxygen getting to get that is a comfortable map for them. And Breeze is playable for M80, and it's a #1 ban out of Oxygen, so the bans make a lot of sense.
Yeah, when you're looking at the picks, though, I think it might favor Oxygen looking at the best of 3 at this point, because I think there's a reason why they took Sunset against M80. M80 were figured out pretty much by TSM. TSM had a great opportunity or had a great chance during the mid-season cup to really run the map in their favor and run their attack side, and M80 couldn't really find anything on the defense to help out. Where Lotus, again, you're banking out on that TSM matchup. They weren't able, for M80 side, they didn't let TSM get a single round on their defensive side, or the attacking side, sorry. So that means that M80 still finds, like, you know, it's a three-site map. It allows you to default a little bit more when you're trying to find that synergy and work as a group and have that time. Okay, we've worked the map, now let's pop as a group. I think now this gives you that opportunity to do that as well.
See, when I'm looking at Sunset for the first map, I'm curious if M80 are going to be switching something up, because when they did have their loss there, they did swap over initiators a little bit. And now that we had the little break, curious what we can see coming on out. But our agent select is ready, so we don't have to speculate wrong. So I will see you two on the other end of Sunset.
Bye.
Yay, bye, bye-bye, bye, Mom. Come, don't forget to pick us up later. M80, Oxygen, this is cool. We got some Gecko Breach versus some Breach KO. Oxygen, love their KO.
Yeah, so far everything stays pretty much the same for Oxygen's pick, and the M80 also stays the same. So what I was talking about, they have now starting on defense, and this was Oxygen's map pick, right? So if it starts off this way, I find it quite intriguing here that M80 is going to be working their defensive half first. I think it's also a great way to start off the match, because again, it was a half that looked really not good at all against TSM. And if you're going to rewatch that tape and then say, this is what we need to fix on the defensive side, and then if you're able to pick at least like 3 or 4 rounds more than what you did the last time you played this map against TSM, and you're able to do this against a top dog now of Oxygen Esports, it's going to give you a little bit more of comfort going into that second half. But you're going to be able to see like some stylistic differences with these two compositions, again, with how quicker these flashes come out between the KO and the Breach from Oxygen Esports.
And I forgot to mention just during that pre-show that we are playing on the Viper and Cypher nerfs, where Viper not as common here, but looking at the Cyphers of Dapper and Nitro, how they deal with that. And then maybe in the future on Lotus, we'll look at if people are still going to opt for the Viper. Because I guess in Shanghai, what did you get to see there? I'm not up in the morning.
Yeah, well, if anything, it doesn't make too much of a difference from what I've been watching, at least with the Viper nerfs, when you can't really pick up the orb anymore. So that's the biggest thing. So it's going to be very map dependent. So you're looking at this, at least now on this map, you're not going to see this map already in general, you're seeing a lot less Vipers anyways, because people are actually putting a lot more into the double initiator as it starts things off here on the attack.
Great first blood out of Redux. That's going to weaken the site here at B, getting the attention here of Nismo and BCJ on the other side of that Omen smoke. So Oxygen able to break through, just adding pressure, shooting through that, getting the plant, and watching the top of site. They don't have a smoke in place, so you got a crossfire there from Redux and Scuba while also watching that mid-entry. Paranoia, a great start, and Nitro converges on one, but didn't check the other corner. He was depending on Nismo to cover that. So we're left in a 2 versus 1 in favor of Oxygen. Watching through B main, Xander emerges. Verno didn't swing in time for the trade, and he already tosses up Xander. Great reaction out of Verno as Oxygen take pistols.
Verno outside of B main on post plants is always going to be something terrifying to play against. We remember those rounds that he had, the clutches that he had on this map as well, as his breach with the fall line, always being very, very prominent with it and getting great successes out of those fault lines on post plants. But at least to start things off, I like little changes that we saw from M80. You tried to play off angle positions on your B side because you know you're not playing against a scan agent on the other end. So you tried to play the off angle with Koala Noob in that corner, but unfortunately got punished. But retakes look pretty decent, and it came down to those duels in the end where it's a standard post plant hold. So at least I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from both of these teams to kick off this pistol round. And look at this buy that you have on the attack side, though. 2 Vandals already with ghosts, and you're trying to work that together and already popping out towards the A site.
Oxygen with yet another first blood, back-to-back rounds. Although the last one came down to a 1v1, so I don't know how excited Oxygen are. They will be planting shortly. Mitch watching the cross. He did get flashed, and there is the flood. M80 just cut down on entry. Oxygen playing so well as a team.
Yeah, they were just trying to gamble here to try to work towards the mid side more, and once they realized here for Oxygen, maybe that's going to be some tape here on how M80 plays here, the defensive side on the eco, and it was just an easy punish going out for Oxygen. Very fast-paced play, but at least now, you know, you went for what? Not too much utility for M80 on that previous round, so you're going to be in a pretty potent buy in the second one. And the same thing for Oxygen Esports. Because they had such a decisive win on that previous round, their economy is going to be looking pretty good here for their bonus, and even their next round should they lose this one here. But by the looks of it, it doesn't really look like they're going to try to pressure anything fast as of yet. They want to work that map a little bit more, kind of like TSM did, and trying to go for some plays to take control here towards A side first with this fault line pop.
Yeah, and that Dapper camera also tells you how close the defenders were at B, even how many people were shooting at that camera. You're not able to get away with as much with sneaky cameras. Xander wanted to be sneaky off the paranoia and almost caught Redux, who bopped away. Oxygen be pushing through this elbow side, and smokes are up for M80 and some trips on both sides. M80 really trying to adapt their approach here to the A site after getting absolutely run over last time. Showstar ball ready for Redux, but it's made its way through the cage. M80 just sprayed through it as Koala Noob drops the spike carrier, and Oxygen are in a terrible place.
Already closed in on it too, though. Very difficult, but it all comes down to this lurk from Dapper. He's about to head back towards the back gate unless he's going to meet up with everybody else so they could just pinch him through elbows. So this is actually an opportunity for M80 to have a good hold here towards the spawn. Scuba has a smoke ready, though. Needs to pop it. It's a one-way pop instead.
Koala Noob, I mean, he's been discovered. No smokes will be in the picture. 13 seconds left. Oxygen gotta grab the spike, but it may just be coming down. The kills, and what a swing. 3, 2, 1, engage. M80 brought down to just BCJ. The plan goes off in time, and yeah, BCJ will get one for the road, but Oxygen on a tear.
Beautiful bonus by Oxygen, and there was still a game plan around M80. Understood the showstopper ready from Oxygen Esports, and so often as it happened that when you're playing on a bonus round as well with the showstopper already ready, focus is more towards the elbows. So you had a nice little battle of utility left and right between the flashes from both ends, and then you had Xander just getting ready to play around the cage so that he could just run out to get that pick. So at least it canceled out that showstopper. But that smoke that they threw here on the attack should have given an opportunity for maybe M80 to win that fight. But Oxygen just looking too good here on those funnies to trade out in these last moments of that round. This is going to put M80 back into an eco. He's You saw the Marshall being shot early by Koala Noob towards the top, and as soon as it gets smoked down and a knife clears out towards middle, Oxygen Esports are comfortable to work this area, and they're just going to let M80 just try to swing out or play these off angles and punish them on potential over-aggression here out of on the defensive side.
Oxygen have been pretty flawless thus far. Xander with the judge is the one I'm worried about, depending on what corner, what cringe spot he peeks. If he can just get one kill and then take the gun, that can really reinforce M80's defense. But to pull a round win out of your hat is, can't even ask a magician to do that for M80. Oxygen, I've already sent the boom bot to A. Hearing that it's a pistol defending A may just give Oxygen the clue. But at least it will be Redux trying to sell the A site push.
M80 are just trying to do like a desperate play. So you see Koala Noob set up here with this Marshall. He wants to be first contact. You can maybe fault line and have Xander run out here with the judge.
30 seconds left.
Oh, but
Xander.
everybody left.
Wait, Xander could just piece up this whole team. He heard the stomp, but now they're just out of range.
Yeah, because Redux is already elbow.
Yeah, this is just a free sign. And Dapper, okay, with the rifle, goes 1-1 against Koala Noob, who can now push up and try to take that gun. He's going to converge there with Xander. Someone has to pick who's getting the gun. 5 seconds left. Oxygen really like to make us worry. And wait, the spy player got killed! Nismo just saved the round!
What a clutch by Nismo. Going on to a thrifty to win the round for M80. They look for calls here as potential overcalling on both ends from Mitch and Nitro. That's the issue when you're trying to play very slow around the clock and not having some mid-round information, some late-round information on top of that. And then you're having these calls where the timing just came off. Xander potentially could have had 2 kills towards that front, but then Redux had a timing towards the A site. And then unfortunately, because you haven't flushed out the utility from M80, that beautiful aftershock coming out from Nismo saved that round from M80. Some room to breathe, a silver lining, and some hope to kick things off right away for M80, because that brings a lot of econ. The ops started coming out from Koala Noob, but for Oxygen Esports, they don't want to give that momentum to M80. Sorry, they already rushed some heavy pressure towards the mid side. They pushed them back towards this crossfire setup once again towards B, but they haven't spotted Xander in the past, though, so he could still play this corner with this judge. So the bait and switch continues on with Nitro being the one at the point to try to bait it out.
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, Xander's going to give up that box position and just try to see if, because last time you heard Oxygen, they were making all types of noise mid. So M80 just checking around, especially after the door has been broken. Xander has to pick really a close range position, whether it's B main, or watching mid. So he's going to opt for mid and just rely on the camera from Nitro to see when the entry comes
Not gonna
in.
happen.
And Redux satchels in by himself, and that mid has been smoked off. He's trying to figure out how cool the B site looks to plant, but without Dapper, mid is open for M80.
Nismo's already there, and you wanted him to start shooting. He called himself out when they lost a mid-season cup to saying, hey, I wasn't playing in my best performance. Now, the first point at the elbow, ADS and gets the kill. Here's a TP inside the site. Another last-second plant coming in towards that B site because of that knife. Also, that found all of that information of where Nitro was set up on that B site. There's still a winnable condition here for Oxygen Esports as they're now set up inside this B site.
3v4 just going to be playing on site with Verno in main. Ready to flash, fault line, whatever it takes, but M80 are split on their approach, and
It's beautiful.
there goes the fault line already. M80 converging from mid, but Scuba has picked them off, and Redux has the top of site covered, and it's BCJ and Xander with time running out as Redux stays hidden in the smoke, just paint shells the pressure on the outside, and Xander just may want to conserve the gun. There's really not much you can do here.
Maybe try to save the op too. Being hunted down by Redux still. And there's that miss, and he gets punished for it. A nice, beautiful flash that came out from Scuba. You hide it, this player, at the beginning of the show here, of the match, that the head-to-head between Scuba and Xander, how much pressure and how much value they bring to both of these teams. Remember that showstopper kill from Xander a couple of rounds ago in their on their eco, and then now you have this time Scuba, a beautiful paranoia coming out into the market as soon as the fault line hit. So that is a nice little counter to not allow M80 to flood back into the site. Now, when you're looking at M80's playstyle, they seem to know a little bit more that they don't want to over-rotate in these moments, and that seems to be something that they've been learning on their defensive side and want to try to flood back a little bit more within these sites. But so far, the 2 attempts that they tried to flood back into it, there was still so much good counter utility coming out from Oxygen Esports. And now they also gave their tell that the op is out now for Koala Noob. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't saved, but they know that they're trying to rush that as soon as possible for M80, and Oxygen Esports has an opportunity to talk about that as well.
Oxygen are dictating this entire game.
100%.
Redux gets to solo push site with no one home, and he's like, I guess we can. Let's go, I guess. And then everyone listens to Redux because he hasn't been wrong yet. The only round Oxygen lost was because they took forever to push against pistols. They could have been way more aggressive. And then with the 3 seconds, whatever they had left to plant, Nismo just kills the planters. So that would have been easily a round 1 if Oxygen had more time.
So far, it's still looking like great reads from Mitch, though. Look at these knives coming out. That's potentially going to hit Nitro again and deactivate the utility, but instead of playing the slant, he played more towards the shop, so that missed. So the camera's going to stay up in the trip. But that's twice now where Mitch is throwing a KO knife right into Nitro's utility, which is going to be really good here, continuing the IGL chess match that we're currently seeing between these two players. That said, though, elbow control, playing against the Eco and a hero rifle from Koala Noob to try to win the round for M80 as they're all set up already towards this A site.
And now with the new patch, you can hear when you're getting spied on by that Cypher cam. So as soon as that camera got shot down, the cage brought up. You want to slow down Oxygen, and at least M80 are standing and delivering! And so does Koala Noob, a massive showstopper, an entry from M80. They did have Scuba in a corner. Great teleport out. He's going to rejoin Mitch, and they're going to pivot.
Now with the ultimate as well, it gives them a chance, but it also pings their position away. They already know right now from M80 that the rotation is going all the way towards this B site. Nonetheless, great showstopper out for Koala Noob. Oh, this push, yeah.
Oh, 1-2, no! 2 to Luna to Mitch in that case. What a great idea. Scuba, 1v2. Oh, the Boombot may discover him. No, they're going to drop in front of him! Oh, the Boombot L! Oh my god, Oxygen steal that round.
Oh my god, it was just a pixel before the Boombot could actually spot Scuba. Just getting the timing off the first pre-fired shots coming out of Koala Noob, and then also hides behind the smoke to get the 2 kills. That is going to be some heartbreaking rounds coming out from M80, but when you're looking at the state of the game so far, where the only time that they were able to win a round now for M80 is after an aftershock, still shows here that unfortunately the struggles that they have on the defensive side still lingers, and Oxygen continuing now to lead the tempo of this first map of this series on Sunset. Op now back out for Koala Noob. This is a great start, though. They could lock out now towards the B side. You're seeing that they're playing a little bit more passively here towards B, because if they're actually going to get flooded, at least you have a Rolling Thunder to stall. But if not, you're able to use that towards the heavy side of A if Oxygen decide to default out towards that area towards the end.
It was such a good last. I'm still pissed for M80 that they lost that round. I'm like, yeah, we'll flame the Boombot, but the fact that Koala Noob had such a good showstopper, they completely wrecked the Oxygen hallway that they were trying to push into, and they just let the stragglers escape. They said, "Tell Cersei it was me," and yeah, they told Mommy Cersei, and and it was Oxygen that won the round. So, man, the story of what could have been as Oxygen with full control of mid, but crossing this way with it, you need to really place a smoke on one side, but Nitro could be catching this and drop the camera in time, and he dropped the spike carrier. He needs to get out and uses the cage, but Redux is so aggressive, didn't let Nitro get out in time.
I'm just trying to figure out why he spammed the camera like 3 times while he was trying to run away back into the site. Maybe trying to pop a second cage or something and just hit the wrong button, so it gives a chance now for Oxygen Esports to set up on a post plant.
A top of sight for M80. They got 2 there, including Nismo with the breach. But look at this extension from Mitch. He's going to come behind Nismo and Xander. The decision has to happen now. And there is the retake. Redux got the showstopper stopped in round 3. Can he have an explosive start with this one? And he heard Xander on the other side of the box. A great read from Redux. Well, I guess great ears. But Nismo now tapping the spike, has his position revealed. Saw Scuba on top of the box and the paint shells. That was some damage as Oxygen jiggle peek. Man, that's mind games as Nismo is playing as patient as he can, but in a 1v3, it's too much for him to handle. Can he escape? It depends on how this cross goes, and they all get taken out by the spike.
And unfortunately, though, for M80, Oxygen Esports has so much more money, so they're going to be fine here to buy into the next round. While you have a little bit more of a broken buy coming through from M80. You already saw Xander was trying to go already into a Phantom, but now that they realize that the economy is so broken, they had to rethink this through and maybe even not use this timeout right away, because they already used one so early and they haven't really found a solution yet onto how they could stop Oxygen Esports at this point. And again, I feel there's a lack of synergy or teamwork to try to play that site. It was a 2 versus 3. Xander TP across towards Jenny, and it just jiggled against a showstopper when they had a Rolling Thunder maybe that could try to fight together with. But yeah, it's just unfortunate how things are running out now. The options are running out as well for M80. And Oxygen, they could just really run into or let and punish M80, because once again, you're in a lower buy. You got 2 stingers here. You're stacked up towards the B side. You're trying to find some information for Oxygen Esports at the start, and it's just going to be just regular default, making sure that, you know, you're checking all your boxes and making sure where their opponents are. And so far, they won't notice anything from the boom bot. They're going to work back towards B. Yeah.
M80, hey, they thrifted this last time.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, true.
So
and they have 2 ults. You know, let's put it that way. I agree with you. There's an opportunity.
But there's a trip and a smoke, so Oxygen, they got to check off a few boxes, like you said, and ready to flash in is Mitch, satcheling in, Redux, collapsing onto Xander in the smoke with the SMG. He doesn't even have the best weapon, but he gets great kills to open up the site. And you got Rolling Thunders, like synchronized swimming, giving M80 a step into the site, but Oxygen win all their duels. This is insane. Oxygen are almost flawless on their offensive half.
Yeah, and that was just a great little hold by Vernal towards the end, making sure and trying to see if M80 would invest into that Rolling Thunder. It was still a good read by M80 to start things off, right? They had the right number of players. I think they had 4, maybe even all 5 players around this B site to retake, to deny. They had some good utilities being thrown on both ends. The traps were really good from Nitro. The only thing that was missing for M80 is the lack of firepower, because they were on an eco. So you had to waste or try to leverage one of those ults to try to get something out of it. But unfortunately, they met with the fate of Vernal's own Rolling Thunder. Now a TP inside the site to find information that there's 3 players inside the site now for M80. Yet they still want to go.
Yeah, they still want to go. They said, all right, we like a challenge. We're in Challengers after all. Oxygen even pre-shooting these corners, trying to be as aggressive, not wasting any time, but then Dapper pushes through mid. Koala Noob is a menace, and Oxygen have to rethink this approach with the Thrash too from BCJ. Oxygen are getting outmatched, and they'll still maybe take a kill here and there, and now they know they're stuck in this hallway. They'll see if they can escape, but Oxygen are in a bad spot.
Yeah. I saw that,
first time.
At least there was an attempt of a flash there from Nismo so that Koala Noob could continue to push forward, because he was on fire pretty much at that point on how he moved around that site to deny entry of Oxygen Esports into this A site. But unfortunately, the flash missed, and then he got punished for that, but at least got information on those 2 players. And now with the orb being picked up, it definitely is a tell here from Oxygen Esports. They were trying to re-hit the site. They have a lot of money to work with, so I would not be surprised if they fight here for Oxygen Esports.
Oh, didn't expect the whole squad to be there. Jeez. But what a round save by Koala Noob. I think he's got the cape on. He's had fantastic showstoppers, and just his double kill really screwed the plans out of Oxygen.
Yeah, and that was a simple check the corner as well to make sure that there's nobody around that dumpster, just like the Boombot that missed Scuba a couple of rounds ago. Now he's going to make sure, fool me once, but not a second time. And that first kill was really the start of M80 being able to hold very, very correctly after Koala Noob died there on that elbow side. So it killed enough time here for all M80 to meet up. Now the Dizzy gets early information at the beginning of the round, and it already forces out a rotate from Nitro, who's going to meet up 4 players up on the A site. What's been, well, let's hold that thought. There's action here. Oh no. Oh no.
Wasn't the best of satchels, but Redux is, his crosshair placement. He just finishes off targets so quickly. But BCJ off that info.
Yeah.
Can go 1-for-1, but knows now Oxygen are mid. They're all over the place. Nitro now with a double triple and the neural theft in a 2 versus 1. He also had a big impact last round, and he hopes to anchor the A site once again.
There's a minute left too, but that's all I was going to say. That's something that Oxygen Esports hasn't done too much, taken mid control at that point. And it caught information, it got information. One player got caught, but it looks like M80 weren't ready for a second player to move up towards middle. And that could have been a start here of a nice pinch for Oxygen Esports towards this A site. But beautiful play by Nitro. These continuous smokes that are being thrown towards the elbow side, that's getting punished here by that anchor player inside A, whether it's Nitro or Xander. They're putting big numbers in terms of kills at that very spot, and that's something that Oxygen is going to have to start learning at this point. And look how much respect they're giving here from M80's side over to Oxygen, giving a chance now for Verno to get a plant, to get set up. Thankfully, at least all of Nitro's util is towards this B site so that it could actually retake together with the camera up once they're all grouped up.
Plan has been foiled. It's at the B side. I like the vision out of M80, especially when they didn't have info on mid. Oxygen could have been deep in spawn. M80 just made sure if Verno was going to do anything crazy, they were going to catch it if he were to extend out of sight. Now, Verno playing through B main should be expecting that fault line. Flashes, we're good, right, Verno?
Usually.
He's just watching his right side, and he's like, oh, thanks for the smoke, buddy.
No, that's good. It forces now Verno to swing out, and the opening is right there so they could fight together.
All right, using all the util flashes. The fuse is being stuck, and Xander wins it through the flash, and M80 get a third one on the board.
I was just about to say, when Verno had a fault line and 2 flashes, and at that spot is very deadly. I love the smoke that was thrown on the billboard so that he cannot get too much value after he flashes out, because when he does, he's still going out not having zero information. He could face 2 players and doesn't know where he could place his crosshair. So that is great thinking on the spot by Xander to smoke that out. Still had a paranoia so they could counter through, and turned away, smoked the bomb on, or smoked the spike on top of that so they could stick to the fuse. So things have been looking really good here for M80 to save that round off this heroic play from Nitro right here. Look at the patience, 6 bullets left, doesn't want to keep spraying, dodges the bullets, and wins that fight. And, you know, it had to start somewhere. It started off with a crazy aftershock to win off time. And then suddenly you're having like 2-3 heroic plays from certain players that now allows you to close the gap by 4. You're already forcing out a timeout from Oxygen Esports. So now you're starting to feel like you're finding some sort of solution on your defensive side. And if you close that gap, you look even better here on the attack for M80. So now we could finally say that maybe the game's not over yet here from M80 after this timeout from Oxygen.
If only M80 could win rounds by more than just one person, you know, like it would inspire me a little bit more, because, you know, Nitro has to got a triple kill, and it still came down to what, a 2v1? Like, geez, Oxygen really know how to turn the odds closer in their favor. But Oxygen now patrolling mid, and kind of look at this forward push out of M80 to take a peek, because Oxygen have had control of that real estate in the past.
Well, Koala Noob had this showstopper too, and it was ready pretty much at this point. If there was some contact towards middle, the fault line showstopper was going to come through. And as they broke utility early and they realized there's no pressure, I love this call from Mitch right after saying, let's pressure back into mid, because definitely they're going to have to give this up because they have zero information on the extremities. So a great call here for them to take control this time and now set that paranoia into M80 where they now have control of the default that they want to run here on this map. And it looks to be leaning towards this B side.
And the trips from M80 kind of leaning on the right side, not usually at the B main entrance as before, and Redux takes some damage. No death though, so you know it could always be worse. But Oxygen kicking down this door in the flash! Oh, but there was a molly right at the door, and I mean, Oxygen were already weak. They lose Dapper in the process, and they leave the scene of the crime.
Yeah, they try to pop flash 2 for the entry, but that's a great reaction by M80, which is why I was surprised they didn't really roll out the null command yet, because it seems like they want to save this against the showstopper once Koala Noob's going to pop it. So leading back towards B, or towards A rather, and Nitro cannot do their hero plays this time.
Okay, but it made it a 4v4. Equalization as Oxygen plant. Got some breach util coming from the backside. Oxygen. No, the swing could come out at any time. No smoke in place. What a backstab from Scuba. And yeah, no showstopper coming through mid, and now M80 have to watch their back. They don't know if Scuba kept going forward, but he's going to get in position to help support the team from the front. And the flash, it's amazing. Oxygen holding their ground. It comes down to just Verno, who wants to shake up the diffuser. Sander may just stick it, get halfway. No, he wants to help the 2v1, and it gives M80 the round.
Yeah, at least to get it a halfway so you can play the 2v1. Beautiful by M80 once again. And it maybe could have been more straightforward if you just went for an ult command towards the B site, but as I mentioned, it feels like they didn't really know where Koala Noob was really set up, and they don't want to give a chance for Koala Noob to take a retake with the showstopper on top of that. You still had a beautiful lurk from Scuba on top mid, but everything else that happened right after, Oxygen Esports, or should I say M80, understood that they were now pressured by shops and they had to tempo up. Beautiful combination of util to blind Mitch at the generator to win that round. So towards the end now, you're only 2-3 rounds away of tying up the game in the last round of the half. I mean, this is looking pretty decent at the end of the day if you're just looking at the scoreboard once this map ends.
Oh,
yeah, there's
crack in the armor there. Oh, hey Redux, you heard the off, and what is G2 doing? He's running in with the flash. Oh my god, no fear in his eyes. He was like, I was 2-10 at some point, make it 2-11, but I'm gonna bring somebody with me to the grave. And of course the judge was kind of nice there from Oxygen. They haven't lost a single person through all that mess.
Yeah, because now Mitch was in a null command too, and now they were able to get that res up in great position for the pulse plant. 2 versus 4.
2 versus 3 now. Wow, M80 really shaved down those numbers. The retakes have been successful 3 rounds in a row. Nitro dealing with the trip. Oxygen should know that he's close, and Verno peeks to get the flash offers. Some util, and either way, they play off of Verno so well.
And I love the pivot that you had from Oxygen to actually enter towards this B site, where, again, we've mentioned when it comes down to these pop executes that Oxygen Esports are trying to do on the attack, M80 has been doing such a great job fighting inside the cages and punishing some players off the get-go. But unfortunately, it was Mitch in the null command, and then Redux was like, well, I'll just central behind and kill everybody else behind enemy lines, while everybody's so hyper-focused on anchoring down or holding down the front site of the B site. So it's a beautiful chess match in that round number 12. Ends up being a victory here for Oxygen Esports. It took a bit. I mean, M80, you could see it through the history. They're stringing 3 rounds together and finding their grooves on the defense, but this is where they shine now on the attack. 3 ghosts on their side. Xander ready to help the teammates pop here with a paranoia and armor while you have full kit for Nismo. So I expect for them to try to figure out where the positionings are so far from Oxygen Esports and gather up to pop now all together towards this B site, it seems. But this trip just got placed up by Dapper. Or you jump over it and make some noise, or you break it and also make some noise, which will sound the alarm for Oxygen Esports to rotate back. So what's the call? Will you try to activate Nitro now on the lurk after this trip breaks?
M80 waiting for the call. Also Nitro on the other side, seeing if there's going to be anybody peeking from the Oxygen side, but M80, they step in, and they're looking to brawl. He somehow, yeah, Nitro loses on the lurk there at A, but it doesn't matter because M80 have overwhelmed the site, and they planted. There's a bit of damage into Koala Noob from the defenders from the top side, and look at the split from Oxygen. M80 are going to be attacked from all angles, but they... M80 just surged through all together, but they weren't able to dislodge Oxygen from the top site. So Oxygen are ready to surround them, and what a jump from Redux on top of the box, and he gets 2! Wow, but Oxygen, with the retake of a lifetime, will win pistol.
I'm pretty sure Verno came out with some sort of fault line, or there has to be something that stalled M80 for the 4-man push towards Boba. Such a beautiful counter that came back from Oxygen Esports after Nitro was trying to sell a fake towards that A side and realized that there was no pressure coming through. So M80 was like, screw it. All 4 of us, we're already grouped up. We'll break the trip, execute towards the site. But we got to look back at that replay to see if there was anything that held them back here on how they tried to pressure back towards this Boba. If anything, I definitely saw some flashes coming through from Verno and Mitch, which really slowed them down from trying to fight and take control of the backside of B, and which really didn't allow for M80 to win back against 4 Ghosts on the pistol round, and now we have 4 Bulldogs.
One suppressed.
Also watch Redux in mid. The Outlaw, that's gonna be a problem, but Oxygen pivot now to B to support Verno, who's just gonna stand and deliver. It's gonna delay them with some util. Wait to go in as a team. Oxygen are not gonna take unnecessary risk. A little bit of some paint shell action hurt BCJ there, but he's still fine enough to get the plant off. M80 would want to set themselves up B main. There is a smoke covering them, but not mid, and that's how Oxygen are able to dwindle M80 down by 2, leaving Nitro, Nismo, Sander with no flashes, no fall line, and no eyes anymore after that. And it's all up to Nitro, 1v5 with the pistol. It's not happening today.
Almost got that one into Verno, 5 HP remaining, but it's still going to be a flawless for Oxygen Esports in the anti-eco. I mean, 4 Bulldogs and an Outlaw. Yes, it would have been some trouble towards middle, but if not, there's some great stalls coming out from Verno as it was solo anchoring towards that B side. He hit a little bit of RNG, though, where he thought maybe he could have had 1 or 2, but the silver lining for M80 is at least they got the spike plan down, which builds the econ, allows for them to get full shields on top of that to play against the Outlaw in this Bulldog. And actually, I don't even think the Outlaw was shot yet on the retake or anything from Oxygen. So this might still be a great surprise now for Redux looking back towards mid once again.
And he smoked off. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
So, still want to maybe stay here when that smoke drops. You just never know if M80 could be just standing right there. So, we'll hold the position for now. Meanwhile, M80 flashing their way through B main. Trips not at the front door, and only 1 trip too. So, not as much obstacles for M80 and not as many hoops to jump through.
Yeah, it looks standard right now, and the knife's going to cancel it. Beautifully done. But the execute will still pop for M80 towards this B site, and they could grab the Thrash right between the cages.
Can't even satchel because of that knife. A lot of cages too. I wouldn't want to satchel past that anyway. But now that the utility is back, M80 flash around the corner. Great job out of BCJ. And Oxygen had their defenders cut down. Verno, Redux, Scuba remain. And the smokes are hurting them. Redux, as soon as he peeks past the smoke, he's down. M80 shut down every entry, every doorway that Oxygen have even thought about crossing. So M80 will slowly make their way back in terms of the score, but it's still quite a deficit to overcome after the way that Oxygen started this game.
Yeah, and Scuba's just battling for his life, trying to save this Bulldog. But then again, I think he should fight for this. They're still going to be in a buy situation for Oxygen Esports in the next round, and they can make it very expensive for M80 on the pulse plan. But BCJ, opener and closer on that round. And yeah, it was just a great pop. It was standard. They wasted out the utility from the knife in the beginning, which allows for them to just continue with the rest of the util right after inside that site. Because you saw the beautiful double flash that came through from BCJ and Nismo, which allowed here just so much util to overwhelm Oxygen, who are trying to anchor a little bit more aggressively inside this B site. So again, though, this is still a strong buy that you currently have from Oxygen Esports, a full rifle round in what should have been a much lower buy here for Oxygen, but still gonna be pretty decent. With the 9th getting info only on Nitro at the beginning of the round for Mitch. And despite that, though, they're still pivoting more towards a strong side B hold.
So M80 done a lot of B site shenanigans now. Mid being explored too with the door open. Koala Noob be catching someone. Well, he's going to be caught by the camera.
And so far,
just gonna make Oxygen nervous.
Yeah, because the first knife that you saw here that only got Nitro just allowed Redux to push out and grab the orb on the A side. And I love this counter fault line. They're gonna try to pop against Redux. And there's no fault line to support Redux, but he's still able to satchel out anyways. So in a good spot to get information, and M80 though still looking to cut noise, still looking to re-hit towards mid, where Oxygen's currently walking out.
Oh yeah, that door is being closed too from Oxygen. It's gonna slow down M80 only for a second. Throwing everything at them, including the paranoia, and M80. At least they'll come out on top, very much on top after that exchange. But still Dapper to worry about. I'm surprised M80 kind of weren't more prepared for that. Nonetheless, they're the ones who own the B site now.
Yeah, it's something simple as well, right? Sometimes when you want your duelist to create the space, maybe it's not always to get those opening shots like you can, because he got denied by a paranoia, but at least he's able to hear the gunshots. Whatever he saw before he got blinded, gave a chance for, once again, M80 double pop flash to get within control of news market and then overtake this B site. So right now it almost seems that for Oxygen, I don't think they're going to call out a timeout yet, because they're on a thrifty now. We got sheriffs across the board, but I think they're starting to understand that as well, that behind the aggressiveness from Koala Noob is always going to be the double util coming out from Nismo and BCJ. So how to react to that so far? At least in their eco to start, they're looking to push a little bit more aggressively down towards middle, where it's been very, very calm from M80 at the beginning of these rounds. So they might be able to catch some players off guard.
Oh, Mitch.
This might be a free kill on BCJ.
Yeah, because the rest of his team crossed, but BCJ has the bigger gun, and he gets the last laugh. Didn't get the kill, but scared him off real good, and Dapper still picks up one for the road, and Dapper is on the flank, so M80 know they gotta push in here and now, and they just explode onto the site, getting now a second kill. M80, or at least equalizing things. They'll also get the plant, so that's nice. But there's the one way to worry about.
There's my buddy.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point, they were trying to chase down Dapper on the flank. Upgraded his weapon, is going to move with the rest of the team off this flood.
Oh, what a paranoia too. Xander and Nismo just command this spot. You got Wingman too running around trying to say hi to Oxygen, and they try to get exit frags, but Nismo, he just can't be stopped. He's gotten 3 kills this round. M80 were at such a deficit, and they're closing the gap slowly but surely.
Yeah, at least I like that they found some value off some lurks coming through and some pushes down towards middle for Oxygen. So changing the tempo a little bit as well. Unfortunate that it was going to be in their thrifty, so they can't get too much value out of the first pick, but at least got information off the hat as well. And now trying to keep their economy right for Oxygen Esports, all house shields across and getting close to a couple of ults, some important ults around the showstopper as well. And it looks like they really want to fight towards the A site one more time. Not giving a chance here for M80 to set up. They could try to pick up a Rolling Thunder for Vernal. Redux is just walking up
for free off the knife info too, and what Koala Noob still wins that. M80 go toe for toe. It's a dance that leaves us in a 2 versus 2 with Nitro picking back up the spike, and BCJ was watching mid, so he's catching up to Mother Duckling here, ready to go to the A site and plant. But Dapper, Scuba, with the paranoia in hand, they gotta work together on this.
BCJ just grabbed up the orb, and Nitro might give him the spike so they could wingman plant for, there you go, the thrash on the pulse plant. But this is a chance now for them to sit up.
Okay, leave Scuba, who's gonna tell him No, fake the teleport. No, the thrash. This is so BM. Run, run, run. Okay, got out. Well, Thrash can go further. Scuba outruns him. Got the legs. Oh, that's a molly. Scuba, 73 HP and a dream. Try and get Oxygen back on that high horse, because M80, it's been 3 unanswered rounds, and just couldn't react in time from the swing off the box. And M80 within 2.
And this is something I like that I see from M80 that I didn't see against a TSM game in the past, where you're trying to be a little bit more synchronized and showing a little bit more teamwork on how you're trying to swing the 3-2-1, right? Because I remember this very situation as well, where you had, I think it was Koala Noob on the top of the boxes, and then Nitro trying to swing back with them, and then they were just not coordinated to win that 2 versus 1. But at least it was a beautiful double swing this time around on the post plan from both BCJ and Nitro. So you're starting to see that they're ironing out how they want to build that teamwork here and that chemistry to make sure that they capitalize on these rounds. Speaking about taking opportunities, they're only 2 rounds away now, once again, of tying up this match, where it looks so one-sided in the beginning for Oxygen Esports, and now the storyline changes a bit. Oxygen Esports are trying to figure out how they can win against M80, and it's them trying to be a little more aggressive and try to bring the fight towards M80 on this A site, where they've been punished like twice so far, I'd like to say. They're going to try it again.
7-1 start. A 7-1 start for Oxygen, by the way, so... You are not kidding or exaggerating when it comes to Oxygen and how comfortable of a map pick this was for them, but how quickly M80 have adapted. I mean, the retakes were improved near the end of the first half, and now M80's offense, quiet, steady, but with everyone watching, and I'm not just talking about you, chat, I'm talking about Oxygen, are ready for this A-site retake.
There's so many ults too. This is going to become very chaotic at the 30-second mark.
30 seconds
Paranoid at the top side with the Gecko Flash from BCJ, and he's ready. A pillar at the front as Nismo exchanges through the left side of the site. Showstopper! Redux goes 1 for 1. The duelists remove. Verno again. He just keeps being left in these clutch or kick scenarios. He's got a Rolling Thunder. Fault line flashes against Nismo. You know, the fault line is gone. Flash is still a worry of BCJ. As Drype, you think he was okay on the flank. Verno, she's got a bigger brain. It's wrinkly, but in a 1v2, how do you clutch this?
It's going to be difficult. Nismo staying alive with the Rolling Thunder, even if they lose Xander in this 1v1. You're basically securing the round here with your Rolling Thunder.
1 enemy remaining.
There's no time.
At least you got kills.
Yeah, at least you got
Stats
kills.
Look cool though. Yeah, you looked cool.
Both
and it
Breach
just
will
sucks
stay
because
alive.
Verno had BCJ flank him, so you expect the whole squad to just want to high five Verno at that moment, and just no one presented themselves. So
Yeah.
Right there.
Just wanted to try to bring some, it maybe looked like an overheat at some point there for BCJ, but the money's really good here for M80. So they just had one player play on his own, trying to get that pick, trying to win a fight. And if it doesn't succeed, then at least they have a 2 versus 1 to play the pulse plant towards the A side. So I could understand that play, because look at the economy they currently have from Oxygen. This could have been a full eco, but now this could change things, right? If you have a hero rifle that's at the right spot where it looks like it's going to be with the Rolling Thunder, it's going to get messy.
quiet for now. Ooh, hearing the sheriff. Gimme, says M80. Not that they want to pick up the sheriff, but they want to kill the guy with the sheriff. So M80. Oh no, he couldn't even satchel! Farno with 3! Says clutch or kick. I'm gonna kick the other team in the face! M80! They were on a roll! 5 rounds closing the gap, and Nismo is left in a 1v3 against a broken buy out of Oxygen, a Thrifty in their sight.
Oh man, it's out in the open too, and they only had to fight it against that single Vandal. Great spot once again, and it's hard to play against Verno. And this is now potentially a Thrifty. Nismo has something else to say though, a 2 versus 1, but sandwiched.
Oh, he's shooting the flank. He's so smart. He's so smart. He's so good at the
HP.
game, but he's so weak. Yeah, 6 HP. Such a cursed number too. Against Scuba, who can just teleport, so he's down to chill and just wait for Nismo to play the chess match. You first. You place the pawn.
What can you really do at that point? I mean, there's really nothing else you
30
could try
seconds
to
left.
analyze at that point at the beginning of the round, where Verno just pops off, and I'm pretty sure Koala Noob tried to come in with a showstopper at the beginning for M80. again, silver lining. You get a plant coming through. You have an opportunity to at least weapons for now. As soon as this plant comes down, you definitely know Scuba is going to run to pick up a rifle. I'm not sure if it's going to invest in a TP, though, so that he could try to get it to a different position and run the clock down or bring the clock in his favor. And there you go. He's going to do with a TP. It's going to get heard. I love the forward position by Nismo.
Oh! HP diff. HP diff, honestly. I want to see that with everyone with full armor. But great, great clutch out of Scuba using the teleport. Just getting the duel over with. And Oxygen are at 11.
That is unfortunate. When you're at 6 HP, you're in a position where I have to play to try to win. And especially at that position when you heard the From the Shadows come out towards that link and you're at 6 HP, you're like, do I just hold the angle? Or would I try to walk against it or play the off angle? And he chose for the first option, and unfortunately you can't win that. And it becomes such a beautiful round converted by Oxygen, an opportunity that was for M80 to tie up the game, yet they let that slip. And now it calls out the timeout. Fortunately enough here for M80, because you know, you got the win taken out from your sails from getting thrifty that way from a 3K from Verno, and now you have a chance to recollect off your opponent's timeout.
Still not a fun half for Oxygen when they've only won 3 defensive rounds and it takes like a Verno 3K.
Yeah.
But you keep putting Verno in these 1v2s, 1v3s, and it sucks for Oxygen because this was their map pick. This was a map they've played so many times throughout stage 1, picking this a lot. And I think along with Bind, this is their most common pick. So for this to go, for this to be that close is tough. This is your mid-season cup champions, everyone. Oxygen are really sweating for this game 1.
Well, as we've mentioned here at the top of the show as well, this was M80 that looked very good on the attack versus TSM during the mid-season cup and struggled towards the defensive side. So for them to, as we mentioned before, if they're able to pick up 4 or 5 rounds, which they did here in the first half, they should still be in a pretty decent spot. But losing that thrifty changes that storyline now it's up to them to just recompose and make sure that they have, because they have that experience, because they have championship players that built this roster. I can't really say championship at this point, but at least contending roster, is that you have the professionalism to be able to fight back and bounce back.
Oh, the timing of Mitch getting into cover. He got info, but he's going to try and hold this angle. It's Koala Noob. I mean, he could easily just boombot around the corner and try to take a mini 2 versus 1, but either way, Koala Noob still gets the kill for his troubles, but he's caught between a rock and a hard place. The rolling thunder from Nismo to buy time for the push for M80, but Oxygen have cut down both sides of the road that M80 were trying to cross through the top of mid, but that's a big kill. Now it's 2v2.
And the thing is, I don't think they know that Redux has an op yet, so if Nitro overcommits and goes head-to-head against the crosshair of an op, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. And there you go. Redux is going to pick that up so they can work together as a group. They only have paint shells, which is the best thing. But after hearing that fault line, they should know that there's a fight towards Boba, and they're trying to take that control. So nobody should be playing towards B main, and they're going straight for that.
Okay. Scuba and Redux, Nitro again. Redux satcheling off from the corner, so smart. Redux clears the left corner with the paint shells and has to check right. Now running out of time. To his left, he doesn't know. He thinks he's playing B main, and Nismo will peek and keep M80 within 1.
This time, once again, very low HP, but he finds redemption. Nismo once again, and remember, he was a player that after losing in the mid-season cup versus Turtle Troop was like, I haven't been playing the best. I've been in a slump, and look at him right now. Finally getting a clutch, being at 19, 14, and 10. Getting the kills in, ADSing, being crispy on the shots, and also great on utility, and also being there for the clutch. You're starting to see the complete Nismo that we all know him for during the past years that he's been playing this game. But also, it was a great play by both of those players on a 2 versus X to be able to put Oxygen once again into a thrifty position where they still have their hero rifle though for Oxygen Esports. It could still be very dangerous once again, but at least to start on the pressure on middle. Oh no, they're walking back into it though. They're looking to split towards B. Boy, they're a great spot for Oxygen to stop that. And that's Spike out in the open too.
This is so bad. They're not going to smoke the top of mid, so if they swing on this doorway player of Redux, then here is the reinforcements. But what a shutdown from M80, and then Redux gets 2 with the shotgun. It works out for Oxygen. They're up by 1. There's a teleport from Xander just to try and sell the A site, but by himself to plant for B, and its location is revealed by the Neural Theft. Rolling Thunder from Verno to push them off the site. This prevents the plant, and it leaves M80 with 40 seconds to come up with plan B.
I don't like that Nismo was out in the open after that, though, because you just TP'd away and wasted out all of your Verno's utility outside of the flashes. That was big right now for, once again, them at a disadvantage, potentially being able to convert that round in their favor. And if Nismo died, that would have been so much harder for Xander. But they're out of utility. They're trying to move in solo towards the A site. Nismo's trying to catch the rotate, but everybody rotated out towards A.
Nismo. Can he help out his friend in time? No, Xander can't even get 1. Now the job is even harder. A 1 versus 3. He'll try to get it halfway. Or an Oxygen will try to get it halfway. No, they're going to stick it through. And Nismo will get a free kill onto Mitch. Fault line to stop the follow-up swing and try to slow peek it. And Oxygen will go to match point.
A cosmetic. He has the perfect stun onto Dapper. Dapper fully stunned, still kills him with the Vandal. And again, this was something that was so good that I was praising M80 in the disadvantaged situation where, or disadvantaged position where they were able to convert that in their favor because they stayed as a group and worked that teamwork and synergy. But this time when you're thinking that you have a better read on how they were playing here, this 2 versus 3, and unfortunately it bites you in the ass. It puts you now backs against the wall with map point for Oxygen Esports. Actually, he hit both of them with the fault line. That's so unlucky there for Nismo. But you kind of wish he was still there to fight with Xander on the post plant.
Such a big risk thinking you could catch the rotate, but Oxygen now, match point. No more timeouts remaining. And then we go to Lotus, which is M80's pick. And this won't be super obvious. This is not like their best map either, so we could still have a series ahead of us. But man, Oxygen's retakes have gotten better and better. They've slowly been able to salvage this half when it started off very poorly, but they are only 1 round away. They only need 1 round to take the first map.
Yeah, but that, again, it's another round for Oxygen Esports where they won here with only a hero rifle that they converted into a dub. This is something that M80 is going to be very angry about should they lose this first map. Thankfully, though, they still have rifles this round. Important timeout to figure out how they can counter Redux and how he can play the showstopper. Currently playing off angle on the left side here of B main. Already it's a trap play to look towards B main. Nitro's running back here. So they fault line, he gets the kill, but leaves the information to tempo M80 towards this A site where they have the Thrash to work with and their own showstopper.
That also means that Redux wasn't in elbow. So that's maybe an easier job for M80 to scamper through. Already removing Scuba, so no paranoia fear, but definitely a flash from Mitch to be utilized, along with the 2 that Verno has. Verno can't see that little guy on the other side of the steps, and that means Nismo wasn't affected by that util. He get ready to peek up. Showstopper, Thrash. It's all gonna go down here and now in this 3 versus 3. Wingman gets info at the top of site. Oxygen brought down to 2. They got Flash, they got Fault Line, they got Dapper in the picture. He's got a gun. Hope he could shoot with it. Well, he sure sprinted in front of some bullets just now. Leaving Verno at a 1v3. He can't clutch them all. M80 though, 1 round closer.
Ended up being beautiful there for M80 on the post plan in the end. So yes, it looked like Nitro was like, what the hell is he doing running out with his knife out towards the spawn? But usually that type of showstopper play, you'd have the double satchels coming out from News, from Market after the breach fault line to try to get a showstopper down towards attacker side mid. But it was beautiful pathing that you saw there from Redux outside B main to actually get that pick. And again, the tempo comes out for M80 despite them at a 4 versus 5. They stayed calm to pick up the orb and make sure they had ults on their side. So the conversions that you have on the disadvantages from M80 has been working out in their favor, and it's been very labored so far for Oxygen Esports to try to close out these rounds on their defensive side. Now it kind of looks like both teams have been really struggling in their defensive half, but thankfully, at least for Oxygen Esports, they had the lead the whole time. Remember, this was a 7-1 scoreline to start things off. Orphan, this is a great start. No pings off the camera. He gets information on at least 3 players, and they're already ready to pinch out towards that area.
That's a lot of feet. They just saw and Scoop was on the other side of smokes with the paranoia. I guess you don't even need it. M80 sprayed through, cleared someone on the right side. That paves the way to the A site, and M80 had one left over on mid to catch rotations, and Xander will pick that up. And Oxygen are left with one guy, and he has a judge. He's ready to come down on M80. 4 versus 1.
One enemy remaining.
Silver lining at least is that Redux could upgrade into a weapon on a 4 versus 1. But it looked like Oxygen was ready for it the whole time. When Dapper saw the camera, they were just trying to rotate across and have a 3-2-1 fault line peak. And Koala Noob was off the fault line that was thrown out by Verno, and that started snowballing everything in favor of M80 to take control towards middle. Very difficult now for Redux. A great opportunity now for M80 to show us the extra innings on this first map of this series to kick off stage 2, week 1 of the night's VCL.
What's just with the information that Dapper had, you thought Oxygen started this round with such an advantage. At least paint shells for Redux. He can clear one corner.
It's not happening.
Towards a showstopper. And there's the whole squad there. Jeez, shooting bodies, 12-12 OT. Holy cow.
Sometimes you talk about discipline of having a high-low, usually like in a 2 versus 1 where the person just crouches in front of you. This time he used a staircase to make sure that they had a 3-layer setup on a trade and then a 4th for the bait and switch behind that map. That's the type of discipline that I was telling you that I wanted to start seeing coming out from M80, that yes, it's present and prominent, but under the chaos of the mid-season cup, it wasn't showing as much. So I'm loving that I'm seeing this a lot more in this very map, and that again, you're showing a lot of tenacity out of M80 when it was such a slow start for them on the defensive side, which unfortunately though is where they're starting again on the defensive side. Set up here to try to fight back on aggression on the A side, as Oxygen Esports though are looking for mid control at the very beginning.
Oxygen are so good at changing up the pace too. Sometimes they explode onto sides, sometimes they have a very slow default. They love to explore mid, where usually there's a camera that'll catch them dogs crossing, but 12-12. Oxygen, who started with a 7-1 lead, with an 8-4 half in their favor, but a 5-round comeback, 5-round win streak from M80 has closed the gap, and now Redux gets hit by some paranoia, and Koala Noob was ready. Now the Boombot out of the picture.
So they're trying to keep the players out where there was a 4-1 setup at the very beginning here for M80. It allows here for Oxygen to just start tempoing towards this B site. So a retake now ensues for is going to be entailed now out of M80, where they haven't been as successful so far here on this half. They might have a chance now as they're trying to pinch more towards the market. No paranoias on the post plant. An opportunity here for M80 to retake this.
Oxygen is trying to stir up M80 at the top of site. They organize through mid. No smoke standing in their way. First blood for Oxygen. Great job by Mitch. Goes back to B main. M80 step forward. They got all the real estate, but they got to push past the cage. But M80 just going one by one. And it's the firing squad of Oxygen that snuffed the life out of M80. And now it's all up to Nitro, that was trying to sell the fact that he was defusing. He was not. He sure was dying though.
Yeah. It was Pearl all over again. You saw it. So the attacker smoke being placed out in front of B main, and all of Oxygen Esports just holding out. They had paint shells, fault line, aftershock, so much utility to delay even more at this point, where you're hoping here for M80 and how they wanted to rework and retake the site. They were going to try to retake from flank at least, which we haven't seen too much this whole game. There was really only one big flank that came out from Dapper a couple of rounds ago when he was playing on the on an eco and getting information off the hat. So now the timeout here for Oxygen Esports to try to close this right away. They don't want to go into another overtime. They want to call out the timeout right away. And I want to see how they could play against M80 at this point. And I think at this point it's just for them to try to work out their fundamentals and maybe not, I don't necessarily want to say over-rotate, but just making sure that their fundamentals are there when they're at a player's advantage. So Blancard is probably going to have that type of conversation with them to make sure that, it doesn't convert back in the favor of M80 in these number advantages that they have.
Oh, I'm so stressed. I'm sure these guys are more stressed, but was not expecting our first game of Stage 2 to go into OT. Our mid-season cup champions of Oxygen, M80, the bridesmaid in that, finishing top 4, but losing to the finalist of Turtle Troop. Trying to see if they can best Oxygen, the top dog after M80. That deficit, the way they overcome, how resilient they are. They'll step forward with the flash, trying to clear A elbow, and some utility being thrown at them through A link, so they're keeping their eyes peeled.
I'm focused now off the timeout. M80 grabbing an orb here, so not trying to get the thrash out. They're trying to get Koala Noob with a showstopper. And more kills off the top.
Oh, and you just saw the paranoia through mid, and Scuba with a teleport to catch the rotation. And you see M80 or an 8-link, and Scuba has the lineups. Nitro doesn't know where to look. He's separated from BCJ. Yeah, they had the molly to slow down and kind of reset the field here. As Oxygen, now that that's clear, Scuba wins it for Oxygen!
Insane play by Scuba to start things off on holding the A site, and not giving a chance here for M80 to even get a plan. How do you TP with big kahunas like that behind the generator to just create the diversion for the rest here of Austrian Esports to once again have a nice little teamwork, chemistry, and crossfire setup here on the retakes? And yeah, it was unfortunately the storyline of Valorant once again, friends. It is the fake comeback story of M80. At least able to push this into overtime, but unfortunately, again, not being able to let this come through. But at least thankfully here, Lemon Kiwi, it was Oxygen's map pick, and they made it very competitive, speaking of M80.
You say fake comeback. I low-key believed it. So they really sold me. They really had me in the first half. I'm not going to lie. Great win out of Oxygen. Series point in their favor. Up next, we have Lotus, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Probably Voice, because they changed last second and they added Odorous and minus Thieves.
I'll go with YFP. Coach Gogi, he used to be my head coach for New York, and he was really solid. So I think they just got a good core of players that can, compete really well.
Maybe QOR, really great young team pursuing the dream right now.
I think Turtle Troop isn't getting a lot of recognition that they deserve. Big three everybody thinks of instantly is just the M80, Voice, Oxygen. Valorant is really a game where anybody can win. That showed in Split 1 a lot.
In all challengers, I'd probably say Mata is the standout player currently on MXS. He's just playing insane in every game.
Best individually, from what I've seen so far, is Mata. Really good player, and I want to be like him.
The best performer individually, definitely Mata. He's really having a breakout season. Gonna be someone who's gonna be on the big stage for a while in this game.
Best performers in Split 1, I would have to say, are Mata and Weeded. Weeded, I see this guy every day in matches just go insane and go nuclear, so he has to be up there for me. And I just see Mata on the stat pages, he's doing good, so good for him.
I feel like Mata has really been the best. He's just been every time I go on the stream, it's just he has 30 kills.
Probably Mata. He's been really good this split specifically. A big reason why they win.
Probably Mata. All the stats say wise also. He's just insane. He's incredible. My whole team, I'm not trying to gas him. My whole team's actually insane. I've been on a lot of teams, played with a lot of players, and just watching the things they do, they really love the game, so.
The game starts long before the game starts. And warm hands are faster hands. Gain the upper hand and power up your pregame warm-up with Zippo hand warmers.